Good afternoon. Are we live yet, Dean? Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Today is April 20th, 2021, and this is a special board meeting of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency. I'd like everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we get a roll call, Bill, to make sure everyone's on?
Yes, sir. Michael Torelli.
Present.
John Dowdett. You waving at me, John? Sorry.
Sorry, folks. Present. Thank you, Bill.
No problem. Thank you. Leslie Pieri.
Present.
Vincent Odock. I know you're here, sir. We can't hear you. Where'd you go?
I can see him. Yep, he's on mute.
Dr. Odock, you're on mute. Could you come off mute and?
Okay.
There we go. You're with us, sir?
Yeah, present. Present.
Very
right.
good. Thanks very much. Paul Ruskevich.
Present.
All board members are present. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as part of our agenda, I'll ask everyone to keep their phones muted while we go through some of this. The purpose of today's meeting is we have a distinct agenda, and the main purpose is to go over our 2020 financial audit and our Paris report as time is of the essence. But before we get started, like with any, whether it's a special meeting or a monthly meeting, we'd like to get a status of the current DA subpoenas and the legislative requests. As we know, recently, there's been a lot of movement on that, and staff has done a great job in putting everything together. So I'd like to get a status update from both Bill and County Attorney Langdon Chapman and or someone on his staff to see the current status of those, and if there's anything else that is outstanding that we need to ask staff to do. So Bill, I'll ask you first if you have any status update on that.
Yeah, we're just about set with everything. I think we from my perspective, we're set with the district attorney subpoenas. We're just missing a couple of items from the Orange County Legislature's request. Some pieces that we need. I called today for some support from Chase Bank in order to get some bank statement images with return checks. That's just been a problem for the last week. But other than that, I believe we're all set. But I certainly will want to check that with Langdon and Karen.
Thank you. Langdon or Karen, any updates or differences or status updates that we should be aware of?
I mean, I spoke with the Executive Assistant District Attorney Rosenwasser today. At this point, we are up to date with all requests. As you know, there's an outstanding reformulation of one request that I am waiting for him to get back to me on. We discussed what that might look like. So I'm awaiting additional requests. I know that there will be more, probably not as voluminous and as expansive as the prior ones, just sort of some fine tuning at this point.
Okay, thank you. And on the county legislative side, anything that you're aware of that besides what Bill said about getting some additional bank statements and copies of checks that need to make the package full?
Nope, that would be it. I had a conference with Bill and the Legislative Council this morning. We discussed the two outstanding document requests responses. It was a bit of a miscommunication when we first provided them between myself and Legislative Council and Melanie Schoten, who put together the bulk of the materials. So I think those two minor things that Bill is working on will get over to them very shortly, and that will complete their package.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I spoke to our legislative attorney yesterday evening, and there was a little bit of miscommunication up until yesterday. I thought we had received everything, but there are a couple outstanding items, which as Bill said he's working on. So we should be good.
Thanks,
I'll
Paul.
just add that we had a call, with Betsy Abraham as well, Karen Reyes and I this morning, just to make sure that we're on the same page, the legislature's attorney, just to make sure, we're crystal clear. And I think we're all on the same page. Great.
Thank you, Bill. Once we get that information that's been requested, obviously be forthright and forthwith in getting it to them as soon as possible, you and staff. So I know you guys are doing a great job with that. Any comments or items for discussion in regards to the subpoenas or legislative requests from the board members? Okay, with that said, we'll continue to go into our agenda. I am going to add a small agenda item at this point, and I know that we have scheduled our audit consultant at 6 o'clock. So we'll, as we get closer to that time frame, we'll try to jump into that and get that consultant on the air, so that we can review and go over any of the audit issues and/or audit review. But a small item that I'm adding to the agenda right now is just a basic statement by me, and I'll open it up to board members if they'd like to opine and/or give their statement as well. I want to start by saying that by taking a position on the Orange County IDA board and then subsequently being elected as chair, I'd like to lead this discussion, but I'd also like to, if there's any comments that board members have, I really wish that you would make them after I speak. This is in relation to the purpose and the mission of the Orange County IDA. And while we all know this is the Orange County, sorry for my phone keeps on moving on me, sorry. This is the Orange County IDA, which comprises of 816 square miles of land. This is not a particular municipality IDA or a legislative district IDA or an assembly district IDA or a Senate district IDA. While my comments are not specifically to any one individual, organization, or person, I want to say that we are going to be doing a lot of work, and we're going to be doing it correctly, and we're going to be doing the right thing. Now, that's not to cast opinion upon what was done in the past or what will be done by others, but this is something that is really true to my heart, is that we are going to be fully transparent, and we are not going to be intimidated or influenced by anybody on the outside to tell us how or what to do or how we're going to go about our business. We're going to be fully transparent. We're going through this process, and we're putting in a lot of time and effort, both at the board level, at the agent level, and at the staff level. So without any undue influence or intimidation by others, I will say this publicly, that as Orange County has an economic development team, and that team comprises of the Orange County IDA, the Orange County Office of Economic Development, the Orange County Partnership, the Orange County Chamber of Commerce, as the foreign main spokes in that wheel. With also, we rely a lot on consultants and on different people who have various levels of expertise. I'll even call them subject matter experts. They could be on the line of counsel, of accounting, of you name it, on economic development. We also have partners that are exterior to the county, that are outside of the 816 square miles. That could be places or companies and or organizations like Empire State Development and any other regional and or other entity that's out there that would help us in creating tax ratables and bringing good projects to Orange County. I really say this from the heart, because while we may try to be influenced by others, we're really going to be who we're going to be. And we're going to make decisions transparently, with utmost of transparency, and we're going to do the right thing. And I think it needed to be said, because over the last couple of days and couple of weeks, there's been a lot of, I'll say, undue influence that's been trying to be made, not only upon me, but on the agency as a whole. We're going to do the right thing. It's going to take some time. We have a reorganization that we're going to go through, and we're also looking forward to 2 new members joining us once the legislature goes through that process of appointing them. So like I said, it's not about any one individual or any one organization, but I wanted that to be said publicly and on the record. And if we have to say it again, we may have to. But we're a team, and we're going to be the best damn team that Orange County's ever had, no, bar none. And I think everyone would agree with that. I'd like to open it up to other board members if they have any opinions or would like to have any statements that they'd like to have. And don't feel pressured that you have to. We can always have this conversation at the beginning, end, or middle of any meeting that we have. So thank you. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to make my opinion and my heartfelt comments known, because I really don't want this to be something that bears us a burden or causes us extra pain or suffering and or extra work. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we're in the right trajectory. And I know that we're ready, willing, and able. And I've used that term a couple times now. So I'd like to open it up. And in this instance, I'd like to our vice chairman, John, if you have any comments, and then we'll go to Leslie and to Dr. Ordock, and then to Paul. So John, any comments that you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, Mike, thank you again. And again, I couldn't have said it better. I agree with you 100%. And I would like to thank all the folks that have put an incredible time and effort here over the last, 6 weeks that we've been part of this. I'm leaning on a lot of the folks that have a lot of really, really intense experience with this, much more than I. And I couldn't be more thankful to be part of it. I look forward to working with this group. I look forward to working with the 3 other Orange County associations that Mike just mentioned, and happy to be part of it. Mike, I think you said it perfectly, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Leslie, any comments that you'd like to add?
No additional comments, Mike. Just very well said.
Thank you. Dr. Ordock, anything that you'd like to add at this point? I'm not sure if we're seeing him or not, or hearing him. Leslie, you're on mute as well.
Yeah, he's Vince, you're muted.
Vincent is muted. I don't think he can see the Dr. Ordock.
Yeah.
There he is.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Vince.
Yeah, you can hear me. Now I said I really agree with what the chair just talked about. We have to be an agency that is independent, so that the public would have that trust in us, especially when everything is transparent. And I think we should keep to that motto, that everything has to be transparent as we go on, so that we continue to have the confidence of the public.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vince. Paul.
Yeah, Mike, I think, I really appreciate everything you said. I think you really hit the nail on the head with a lot of things there, and, some things up here pretty good. I know this is a period of transition for the IDA, and I know a lot of people are watching very closely, and but I think we have a very good team here. As you said, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to do it transparently, and I think at the end of this process, we're going to have a much stronger IDA. I appreciate all of you agreeing to serve on this board. I know we put the board together pretty quickly and threw you guys right into it with a huge job ahead of you. So I'm just thankful that you all didn't get up and walk out the first meeting. But no, I think we've got a really great team here, and good things are going to happen. So thank you, Mike.
Great, Paul. Thank you. All right. With that said, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Now, I'm not sure if we're all ready, if we have reviewed them all. We just received them today for some of our past meetings. Does the board feel comfortable with reviewing them, talking about them, adding any amendments to them, or actually even voting on them at this point?
Mike, I had a chance to go through them. They seem good. As long as Leslie's good, you're good. Vincent and Paul are good. I'm fine with them.
Okay. Did everyone else get a chance to take a look at them? I know they just came, and it was been a yeoman's work on our staff to try to get them done. with some of the other responsibilities and priorities. If we're not comfortable, we could vote on them next meeting, which is to be determined. It's not like we're on a time constraint here, but Leslie, have you had a chance to review?
Yes, fully reviewed. I think we're ready to vote.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion on, we have a batch of 3 meetings. I think we could do this all at the same time, as long as there's no comments or concerns or changes to them individually. If someone would like to make a motion on the approval of the last 3 board meetings minutes.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that, Mike.
Great. We have a motion. We have a second by John. Bill, would you like to call the roll on the approval of the minutes?
Yes, Mike Torelli.
Yes.
John Dowdett.
Yes.
Leslie Pieri.
Yes.
Vincent Odock.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Paul Ruskevich.
Yes.
Okay. 5 yeas. Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. That's one thing that's behind us. Do we have the people from JGS lined up or in our queue yet? If not, we can continue on with our business and then we can come back to them.
Dean, do you see Mr. Martucci in there? Okay, I'm going to text him. He was prepared to be on at 6. So his window is 6 to 6:30. Perhaps we could talk to Harris Beach about the Paris reports.
Sure. So at this point, we'll skip over the audit until JGS can join us, and the Paris reports, which includes the audit, obviously, which we'll talk about separately. We can go over that. So in this instance, I'd like to, Bill, once you're done texting, if you could just lead us into that, what the Paris report requirement is, and then lead us into what we've done to date in regards to having the consultant group do a bunch of the regular work on that, and then we'll turn it over to Harris Beach. So please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Very simply put, the Paris reports are annual reports that we submit to the Authority's Budget Office, the ABO. It details, you see in the drafts, a number of items really of the work of the OCIDA and OCFC. There's a report for each. The audit and the Paris report do go hand in hand, because one of the items on the Paris report is that the affirmation that the board has approved the 2020 audit. So again, they do kind of go hand in hand. But Harris Beach this year, given the transition we're going through, it's normally a report that's done in-house, but Harris Beach has completed those reports for us. Quite a bit was done in-house beforehand, but then they were handed to Harris Beach and they finished them off. So we have Julie Marshall and Russ Genzel on with us. Julie has done a lot of work preparing those reports. So maybe we can give them a moment to comment and see if there's any other comments on the board.
Yeah, good afternoon or evening, everybody. It's Russ Genzel. Yeah, as Bill noted, the Paris report is an annual report that is required under state law through the ABO, and was in very good shape prior to the transition that we're going through. And Julie Marshall, who's a colleague of mine at Harris Beach, helps a lot of IDA clients completing those. Essentially, what needs to happen is the audit needs to be approved by the board when they come online at 6 or whenever it is, and the board to accept that audit and authorize Ed to certify as to the accuracy of the Paris report, and then Harris Beach, as your agent, would file that with the state by the deadline, which I believe is April 25th for both the IDA and the funding corp. I can tell you that we have worked on audits with other IDAs that are quite voluminous. In fact, Monroe County's IDA Paris report was, I believe, over 400 pages long. Ours is not that quite involved, which is good news. And it's essentially a job reporting and project compliance report that the state requires that we file every year. So what you have in front of you, subject to the approval of the audit and authorizing Ed to certify, Harris Beach will take the lead in submitting that as early as tomorrow.
Great. If Russ, if you or someone on your staff can opine, and or if you need assistance from our staff to opine, obviously this is a 2020 Paris report. So obviously the initial pages of that report show the previous board members. Now, knowing them personally, but not knowing the accuracy of the details, can someone opine about the accuracy of the details on each one of the board members that, that goes into training and names and those stuff? I think all that is been reviewed, and because I don't think that this is our first Paris report that we've seen, but obviously it covers the previous board's information.
Yeah, that's correct, Mike. And this new board will have to go through the training process that's required by the state. This relates, as you said, back to 2020. So with the transition, this board will have to authorize Ed to certify and Harris Beach to submit. And then going forward, each new board member will have to go through the training process, which we can facilitate for you. It's pretty easy. It's an hour, Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, an hour-long training session that you have to go through. But the report is complete, and in our opinion, is ready to be submitted, subject to approval of the audit and authorizing Ed to certify.
And when you say Ed, meaning Ed, our staff member, Ed, who's our CFO?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. That's the process. And then he certifies once we approve it, or after he certifies it, then we approve it?
No, you approve the audit, you authorize Ed to certify, Ed certifies, and we submit.
Okay. What about the accuracy, or are we voting upon the Paris report details, like the project by project details?
No, you're not, because what is relied upon through the Paris process is we reach out, or staff reaches out to each individual project for reporting requirements, the number of jobs they've created, the capital expenditures they've made, that they're in compliance with all local labor laws, all the things that all projects are required to be in compliance with. We rely upon them to certify as to that. But the Paris reporting process, frankly, is a little bit kludgy, and requires that the CFO certify as to its accuracy, which Ed will do based upon our opinion that it's ready to go.
Great. Lastly, the last question I have about the Paris report is once the report is submitted and it gets accepted, is it posted on the ABO's website for public transparency, or like at what level is all that done on?
I don't think it's posted actually on the ABO website. Julie, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we do post it on our own website, as we would with any other project, resolution, application, documents. I don't think the ABO, frankly, has the capacity to post every single IDA or LDC's Paris report, but it is a public document, yes.
Actually, let me jump in. They don't per se post it. However, there is a link through the ABO's website. It takes a little maneuvering to get through, but you can find the report. Once the ABO has reviewed it, generally around the August timeframe, that link becomes available so that it is available to the public.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I know some of us went through the recent training on it, but it was so fast that you're trying to, get all the information at once, and it's obviously new to us. So thank you, and thank you for letting.
Yeah, and Mike, it is a process, and if the square doesn't fit it, the square peg doesn't fit into the circle, you kind of have to noodle with it a little bit. But there wasn't a whole lot of activity last year that had to be reported, so this report was relatively benign and easy.
Sure. And then obviously if the ABO has any questions or concerns, they would contact us. We'd work on making a supplemental submission or adding additional detail or anything like that, correct?
That's correct.
Absolutely correct, yes.
Great.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Pardon me, our representatives from JGS, RJ Martucci and Rob Unger, they are in the waiting room. So if we, as a matter of business, want review, go into the audit and approve that. If that should be the succession there, we're prepared to do that.
Let's just hold off. I mean, they can come onto the Zoom at any time. I'm fine with that. I just wanted to open it up to board members while we're on this topic, so we don't lose our train of thought. Are there any board members that may have questions of council in regards to the Paris report or some of the intricacies of, the details and/or the reporting requirements?
No, Mike, I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay. All right. We can always come back to this if we have a question. So let's go in. If you want to open that up, Bill, or whomever's the gatekeeper, and having a quick overview. Bill, if you can give that. Time-wise, I think we reviewed, it was presented to us in the past. We've had the opportunity to ask questions. I'll open it up for more questions, but if you can give us the quick overview with that.
Yeah, I just want to welcome RJ Martucci and Rob Unger from JGS. They've been great. They've given me an awful lot of time. A couple of weeks ago, they went over the audit with me, just one-on-one, just so as I was getting up to speed with everything. And then as we were, kind of piercing holes in it and asking questions, they were very responsive. One thing I will say kind of on their behalf, one answer to some of your questions, Mr. Chairman, is, was every transaction looked at, every, expense that was paid, et cetera, et cetera. And, they made it clear that as is normal course of business with an audit, they really are doing testing. They're looking at a series of transactions and seeing them through, but it's impossible for them, reasonably speaking, to track every single transaction. So that's just one thing, kind of a blanket statement I wanted to say on their behalf, that because of the nature of the audit, not every single thing was looked at. If anything raised concerns, certainly they would pursue it. But just to clarify the nature of the audit in that regard. But really, without any further ado, RJ and Rob, thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everyone.
Yep,
we have presented the audit to the board. We did share it again, and some of the questions that Mr. Torelli had. So the board has seen those. If anyone has any other questions, or Mr. Chairman, again, if you still have any remaining questions you want to ask them that you and I didn't cover after I spoke to them, please, really, they're here to answer any questions you have.
Sure. I'll open it up to the board first, and I'll reserve my questions for at the end. Any board members have any questions of the audit that's been presented and reviewed? We received it both in video while we were in a live public meeting, as we also received it so we can review it additionally and ask any questions. So I'll open it up to board members at this time if they have any questions or concerns.
None for me, Mike. Good.
Okay. Leslie?
Nothing for me, Mike.
All right. Paul?
No, I'm good for now, Mike. Thanks.
Vince?
I'm fine. Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. And Bill, thank you for the update in regards to the type of audit that this is. I know some of my questions that I originally had question was not understanding exactly the full details of the actual audit. So I think that it's very well done, and I think it's to the point where it's comparable to previous audits and those type of things. While it's not a transaction by transaction audit, it does take a snapshot. And if I'm saying anything incorrectly, please correct me, either Bill or the audit team. One thing that's new as part of this audit, I believe, is our loan program. So I'd like to have the audit team just briefly describe what they looked at in the audit program. And because I know that there's also a potential small write-off that we're doing on that. And I think that's kind of new as you compare this to other audits. So RJ, Rob, if you'd like to just describe how you looked at that in particularly, just because it's new.
Correct. Yep. So obviously the loan program was established because of the OCFC's response to the COVID pandemic and providing support for small businesses in Orange County. So there was a lot of, I believe UHY were the advisors who provided the administrative support to get that program up and running, as well as tracked and monitored from a loan proceeds going out, as well as collections of those loans. And I know Ed reviewed in detail his methodology by which he arrived at the $70,000 allowance, which offsets what we are claiming as the full receivable balance within the loan program. So what we did was we assessed the number that he came up with. We understood his methodology, and certainly it was very thought out. So he reviewed the loans that have been given out, loans that have come in, and other things like that to kind of come up with a base of assumptions by which to calculate his allowance. We looked at it kind of on a overall basis, and typically, and Rob can correct me, but typically we see allowances of any significance when it comes to a unique program such as this loan program, because we are dealing with a lot of small businesses greatly impacted by the COVID pandemic. I would say the rule of thumb is anywhere from 10 to 20% based on a determined threshold of collectability. Where we ended up with Ed's calculation was roughly 15% of the remaining balance to be received. So with that, we found that to be a reasonable estimate. And that's exactly what it is, an estimate. So at any point it does go higher or lower, we would make adjustments in a subsequent period to either recognize collections that we previously written off, or we would write off more based on what we saw as actual events.
Great. And RJ, that's when you say snapshot, it's the snapshot as of December 31, 2020, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes, that is correct, because we did have a sizable portion of businesses that did repay. I want to say, and Ed can just nod in acknowledgement, roughly about 100,000, I think, was received as of 12/31 on the original 470,000 that was loaned out.
It wasn't about that ballpark. We had very good response of people prepaying, and so that's already figured in. And I'd say back in December 31st, we did have some borrowers that were, did not have payment and difficult to get a hold of. So that was the ones I was concerned about, and took that as a reserve.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to jump in real quick. Just, as RJ had stated, the reserve is really just what's known as an accounting estimate. Typically, because you're dealing with small businesses, the chances are you're not going to collect 100% of these. So you set up what's known as a reserve. And the opposite side of that, it reduces your receivable, is a bad debt expense. And we have $70,000 there. That's not to say specifically that company XYZ is a bad debt expense, but that is what our reserve is. And that's what our estimate is of the potential bad debt expense, in case that makes it clear for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any questions from council? Is someone speaking? Someone's mic is on. I'm not sure if you're trying to ask a question or if it's something that is on a different conversation. Okay, with no further questions, do I have a motion to accept the 2020 financial audit as prepared by JGS?
I'll make that motion,
Mike.
Paul, you made the motion?
Yes.
All right, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Bill, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Torelli?
Yes.
John Doughton?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Ruskevich?
Yes.
5
Quick
yeas.
question. Is there two separate audits or is it one full audit for both entities?
So we have the consolidated audit, which is all three entities. There is a standalone set for OCFC, but all that standalone information is incorporated in the consolidated. So I would say, but I'll defer to Bill. But I would say, based on voting for the consolidated, it's kind of accepted that the results of the standalone are sufficient.
Yeah, my suggestion is that we, to the board's discretion, accept the audit and approve the audit for the IDA, and then when we get into the funding corp, accept that audit separately.
Okay, are we doing that all tonight?
That's the plan.
Okay. Any questions or concerns about the OCFC audit report?
Nope.
Like to take anyone have a motion on that?
Mike, wait till you get to the funding corporation meeting to take that vote. Okay.
I assume that's what you meant, Russ, right?
Just keep you're right now you're in the IDA meeting. When you get to the OCFC, then you can do that.
Right. I think we approve the IDA audit to the board's discretion. And then when we get to the OCFC meeting, the presentation has been made. And then as that board moves, they can approve that.
Okay. And you said there's a third one?
No, the IDA and the accelerator are kind of all under one umbrella under the IDA.
Okay. So when someone writes up that resolution where we all voted in favor of that, please spell that out, that it's the IDA and the OCBA. And then when we go into OCFC meeting, we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, Mike, we sent over resolutions. I know it was late in the day, but there are resolutions that are on paper that staff and council has.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
Realistically, Chairman Torelli, just for the sake of clarity, you're adopting the resolutions that the board was sent over by Mr. Genzow earlier today, just so we're all clear.
Yes, as long as they specifically have the IDA, OCBA as the one, and then the OCFC as the other, which we'll vote on later, I guess.
That's right. That's good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So with the OCIDA financial audit approved, we'll turn it over to Bill and then over to Ed to opine about the Paris report and certifying that.
I'm not sure what more you want me to add to that. Now that we have those approved, we can vote to approve the Paris reports as well.
Well,
Ed, do you have any other comments?
I think we need Ed to, I think from what Mr. Genzel said is that we need Ed to certify it. So I'd like to
certify. I'm the one that pushes the key into the system to say it's certified.
All right. Are you comfortable with certifying?
I will look out now. I'll need the final. Think of it yet. The audit. Okay, because I only have the draft in place. Once that's in place, that will be uploaded. I will make final pass. Make sure I got the right. They ask for web addresses and stuff like that to look for this document, and then I will certify it.
Okay. So no other issues, Ed, that you're aware of that would thwart you from being able to certify this before it's due?
No, it's I went through with Melanie on the projects. I went through the procurement stuff. I put the I'll work with her on the staffing numbers and on the what's the other one in particular is the board members. That was done that with tandem with Melanie. So I feel confident about that.
Okay, great. If you have any concerns, please let Bill know and he'll let us know and we'll work with you on getting this done.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Before we let the JGS guys go, I just wanted to follow up on something Ed just said about he needs the final audit. I just want to be very clear. Is there any other, does it just need to say final on it? Any other modifications to the drafts that we've reviewed? Just want to make sure we're all clear on that.
No, I just mean the copy has draft on it. I just need to
remove that.
Have the final one, and I guess it'll be the date will have to be today's date on the document on the audit that was accepted.
Great. Thank you. Can we let Mr. Martucci and Mr. Unger go?
Board members, any other questions for the JGS audit team?
No, thank you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Right.
Great. So we're currently on our review confirmation. We're back to the review confirmation of the 2020 Paris report. In this instance, we've recently approved the financial audit for the OCIDA and OCBA. Any further questions on the Paris report? And if not, then I'd like to entertain a motion.
No questions here, Mike.
All right, no questions. Anybody like to make a motion to actually approve / submit the Paris report for the OCIDA, OCBA portion of this?
I'll make that motion, Mike.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Leslie. Bill, can you call the roll on accepting that?
Sir, Michael Torelli.
Yes.
John Dowded.
Yes.
Leslie Pieri.
Yes.
Vincent Nodock.
Yes.
Paul Verskevich.
Yes.
5 yeas.
Great. Moving right along, the next agenda item is talking about finances, reviewing our current voucher process and reviewing payables. This is a special meeting, so we're not going to be voting on any things to pay tonight, but there's a process that needs to be in place that we all feel comfortable upon. We spoke about it briefly a couple times in the past, and the idea here is that staff with our agent Bill will be preparing a line-by-line report for our regular monthly meetings that would be sent to us prior to the meeting, hopefully a couple days prior to the meeting if we can, so we can review all of the expected vouchers and the approvals and what was done prior to that. And what I mean by that is that there's got to be there's going to be a master Excel spreadsheet each month. This is my idea, that will list the bills that are being presented to the board for approval. At this point, everything that the IDA, OCBA, and OCFC, even though we're not in that meeting yet, will have to be presented to the board for approval. There is no thing that will be that'll be just done by staff or by agent staff in regards to paying of any invoices at this point. So a master spreadsheet, and then going along with that spreadsheet will be individual invoices with a cover sheet / purchase order sheet that will have the details of the payee, the amounts, a brief description, and if it was by contract that was previously approved by the board or by something that they're looking for the board to actually approve for a payee. When it gets down to it, I think we can streamline this process, specifically when we have reoccurring payments. And while we may have a lot of stuff to do in the beginning of this process, stuff that is reoccurring by contract that we've approved will be batched in the beginning of each monthly invoice, so we know that. For instance, if we're paying a utility bill, let's say, and we know that we're paying the utility bill, and we're going to receive a utility bill every single month, that should be batched in the beginning. I'm not going to use the term controversial, but I want to use the stuff that is questionable or stuff that needs additional review or authorization should be batched at the end of that spreadsheet, so that in the beginning, say 1 through 10, I'll say is the easy stuff. And when I mean by easy, I'm saying that tongue in cheek. It's stuff that we already know of. It's those day-to-day expenses that we have to in order to operate. The say 10 through 20 or whatever it is will be the stuff that is either ad hoc, maybe a one-off, maybe a specific thing that we have to do with a consultant, with bringing in somebody new, somebody that has subject matter expertise. It could be, I'll give it, for instance, like the voucher for the audit that we just approved, those type of things. What I'd ask staff to put together is that draft spreadsheet and that draft voucher / cover sheet. What would also go with that cover sheet is the backup material, would be the invoice from the payee of what they're exactly looking for. So I'd like to have that done within the next week or two if we can, so that at our regularly scheduled meeting in May, we can have this as a standing item on all regularly scheduled meetings where we would review and vote upon paying of any voucher or invoice that is out there. I know it's a process that we have to get through, but I think that it will provide not only an electronic and / paper trail on everything that we do, but it will also supply 100% transparency on everything that we're spending. With that, this is all on payables. We'll have a different and opposite discussion on receivables, and obviously that's through fees and such that we get from our projects. Not to belabor the point today that we need to go into that. I think it's more along the point of having this system in place so we all can review what's out there and understand what's out there, and we can ask questions prior to coming to a meeting so that we can get to the point where I'll say our top of the spreadsheet, the easier things are really easy to potentially do, even if we have to do them in a batch or, as a group. And then if we have to go into individual invoices or if we have questions that are questionable, we can go into that at the end of that agenda item. So I'd like to open that up to opinion of other board members. But the idea is that we would see a draft spreadsheet and a draft, I'll say, template / vouchers that we would look at and be the basis for us to review moving forward. So I'd like to open that up to any of the board members for their opinions, comments, any questions that you may have in regards to that.
Mike, John, down there. No, I think it's a sound practice. And again, as you said, where we are now is not where we're going to be once we, have a chance to review this. But I think it speaks exactly to what you spoke about early on in your first messaging, that this will be open and transparent, and we're going to crawl before we can walk and run. I think that's a sound practice of which we will streamline as we go, but it speaks exactly as you said in the beginning. And I agree 100% with it.
Great. Thank you, John. Anyone else have any opinions, comments in regards to that? I would like that, once staff and agents have a chance to send us the templates, we review them, make our opinion, respond back quickly so that we can get these templates ready to go for next month's meeting. Any other opinions, comments, concerns in regards to this?
No.
Great. If we have any more concerns, we can review them on an ongoing basis. Like I said, this is going to be the initial process. Once we reorganize and have all the systems in place, we may go back and amend this, potentially giving leeway to potential executive director and or staff to do a certain level of things. But at this point, and with this, but prior to reorganization and those policies and procedures being in place, everything has to come in front of the board in order to be reviewed and approved in order to be paid. And I'll ask for patience on from our vendors on this, and we'll continue to move forward. And if there's any questions or concerns, please let us know. Anything in relation to this topic that we need to opine or review, or anything from council and or anyone that has any questions about that process?
I'm just wondering if there are any vendors out there who will charge you interest for making late payments?
That's something that I don't have direct knowledge of, but if staff does, I mean, obviously we're going to ask them to work with us, and we'll be scheduling our meeting for next month to hopefully eliminate some of that.
A couple of things I've just offhand is about any type of emergency payments. Especially if we still got the accelerator buildings, if something has to be paid, some damage is done or something like that to get repaired, a way to get that done. And a lot of the bills we got 2 waves of bills on the for the business accelerator. So I don't sure how they, their 30 days or whatever their periods overlap or not. So We could be out of, some of those could be out of sync with the schedule of review.
All right. So what I would ask is that those things that are potentially out of sync or review, we try to put them in sync if at all possible. And I'd ask for you to work directly with staff and with Bill to go ahead and figure some of that out. And if there's any problem areas, we'll have to, touch base about that at our next meeting. And then there's obviously emergency acts, stuff like that. So if that's needed, we would potentially have to call a meeting or put together a procedure. We don't have that procedure today that I'm aware of, but hopefully in the very near future, we would be able to have that as a procedure.
And the only other one that's odd is with payroll, since that is a payment.
Yeah. So in that instance, I think with payroll, it's more of I don't want to call it a fixed cost, but it's more of a known cost. So I'd like to have a write-up on that, not having the information in front of me now. I'd like to have a write-up on that, on potentially making that, if it's set, obviously we want to have time and payroll checks to make sure that, whether if it's a hourly employee or a salaried employee, that they're working those days and such. But I'll ask Bill if you could put that together so that the payroll does not become a delay. And it's something that obviously when people work, they have to get paid. So definitely in favor of that, especially when you're doing your work. So I asked for a quick write-up on that, Bill, and then coming up with a system that could be in place so we have a little bit of check and balance on that. I'm not sure what's in place today. I'm unaware of the intricacies of time review and or accuracy, but obviously we'd want Bill to review that at a certain point, and then once we reorganize, that'll be revisited. But it's something that we need to do as soon as possible.
Understood. Mr. Chairman, can I ask one other thing that's related to this before we get off this subject?
Please do.
In the same spirit of this board looking to implement more stringent controls over spending, especially right now, we require only one signature. I know we talked about signatories at the last meeting, but Ed can sign a check alone for virtually anything, and that includes himself and to TSEC, who he also works for. So he raised this concern himself. But is that something you want to talk about? An additional signature required?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Bill. It's something that I think that we need. And it's something that I think is required, especially if we have employees or less than full-time employees that also have employment elsewhere that are potential vendors to us. So obviously, there's a conflict of interest there, or a potential conflict of interest. I'm not opining upon that, but you have to have a check and balance with that. So in this instance, yes, Bill, you did make me aware that only one person is required to sign a check. I also would like to know more information about how many signatures are required when you make an investment. So that's something that we'll cross that road as we come to it. But at this point, I'd like to open it up for board members to opine upon whether a dual signature is required. Obviously, with the thing that we're putting in place, nothing can be paid without board approval. But when it comes to actually physically either having the check processed and signed and or electronic payment, I think that there needs to be a check and balance with at least two individuals that are on that. But I'd like to get the opinions of others.
Mike, I would just lean towards the expertise of Langdon or Karen or Bill and their experience, what other IDAs use or what is a recommended practice, and follow that.
Do we have any expertise from council about what is the proper way, potentially maybe how other agencies do this, that type of stuff?
I don't myself have that level of expertise. It's too, but I think we can certainly find out. I think one of the things you're going to have to do is you do this retreat, for lack of a better term, although it's going to be a televised retreat, is bring some best practices in that we can all learn about here.
Sure.
And I just want to clarify, Chairman, one thing on payroll. You're not suggesting, or maybe you are suggesting, that payroll doesn't go forward now without a board. The continued payroll will continue to be made. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Payroll should continue to be made once it is proven or signed off that the hours, if it's a part-time person or a full-time, that it's accurate. you know, we have to better understand that. And as long as that becomes a fixed or a known expense, yes, no, I do not want people to not get paid. So people should continue to be paid in accordance with the hours that they've worked if they're part-time, or based upon their salary if they're full-time.
So Bill will review that, for lack of a better term, and Ed will simply make payments based on that, which is what Ed does through a contractor now. Is that my understanding?
Yes, that's my understanding as well, is that while it's less of a physical, I'll say, calculation and check made by staff, we use an agency that does that. So that has to be inputted. I believe it's the EA agency, if I'm not mistaken, from what I reviewed. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Right.
And that would be a normal course of action, and obviously reported monthly when you do financial statements at our regular monthly meetings.
Thank you.
Yes, it is Ethan Allen Staffing, otherwise known as staff line. And right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but I don't believe there are any timesheets. It's something we talked about, so I think there are opportunities.
Basically, we only got one employee that's hourly. So that's basically done on just email reporting at this time. The other items that are more variable in there are, PTO reporting, holidays. Also, we do the mileage reimbursement through there and the cell phone reimbursement.
So obviously, Bill, we'd ask for you at this point to review those type of things. If there's an issue that is board worthy that needs to come to the board, please make it known. And it feels like we're meeting every week. Hopefully we stop this and we get on a regular schedule. But if there's something that you need our assistance with, let us know. But in regards to all those items, whether if it's payroll and reimbursement for expenses like mileage and those type of things, that's all should be reviewed at the staff and agent level and paid accordingly.
Understood.
Yes.
Vincent has a question.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, Vincent, yes. In terms of signatory to the checks, and if you want to find out how that IDA in other counties are doing, you probably just need a phone call to the right department. I mean, we get that information right there. Right? I think that's what is done.
Yeah, this is Russ, Mike, if I may just chime in quickly.
Please do.
Yeah, typically, payroll is typically done through an outsourced organization. And as a matter of course, most IDA employees are salaried, and their salary and benefits are paid on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. As far as contractual payments or other invoices that come in, typically you do have two signatures, and either by the chair and or the CFO or whatever board members you guys would like to have sign those checks. I agree that should be the normal process.
Thank you, Russ, and thanks for your expertise on that. I thought maybe you would have an answer on that. Thank you. So in this instance, I believe last meeting we talked about. Are we still there?
Yep. Good.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it froze up. Sorry. So last meeting we talked about adding myself as a signer. Obviously, Ed's already a signer, and the question now is whether if I don't have the ability to, or if Ed doesn't have the ability to, should we have a third signer? We got the opinion of council last time, and we're not going to have that be Bill at this point because he's an agent of the agency. Any opinion from council about potentially adding I'll say a third signer from someone on the board? I'll say potentially, the secretary's position, I think, is maybe something that we may want to consider, but that's just a thought. I don't want to put pressure on Leslie to be a signer, but I think that's potentially something that we may want to do.
I think you might want to look at who's more available to be at any given time to sign those checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, proximity to the accelerator or the offices or wherever.
Sure. Yep.
You also have the responsibility of opening and closing the accounts. So besides signing the checks, so.
Sure.
Yep.
Mike, I have no opinion. That sounds good to me. 2 signatures is fine, and as long as Leslie agrees, that'd be great. I'm certainly comfortable with that.
Langdon, are you comfortable with having 2 board members and the CFO? So I have 2 out of the 3 potentially.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think you have a choice really at this point until you get yourself a full-time executive director again.
Yeah. Obviously, this will be subject. It'll change as we reorganize. Thank you, Leslie. Do you have an opinion? I mean, I don't want to publicly put pressure on you, but you do live the closest you are the closest living board member to the checkbook.
It's fine with me. It's a 5-minute drive.
Yes,
thank you.
So I think we would need a motion on that. So if anyone would like to make any other comment on that, I think having 2 board members and the CFO, so we have 2 out of the 3 of us be able to do stuff, I think is a good thing. Any other comment? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to make Leslie a 3rd signee on all of our financial instruments, I'll say, because it's a little bit of varying of everything. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, Mike. Yep.
Thanks, John. I'll second it. Bill, can you call the roll on that, please?
Yes, sir. Mike Torelli.
Yes.
John Dowdett.
Yes.
Leslie Pieri.
Yes.
Vincent Odock.
Yes.
Paul Verskevich.
Yes.
5 yeas.
Great. Thank you. All right. Now, logistically, we're at our, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our 6th bullet, potentially 7th with me adding one, future meeting schedules. Thank you, Bill, for putting together and coordinating a listing of all of our good times, bad times, and different times, you name it. We'd like to obviously get onto a regular schedule. Right now, prior to potentially 2 new board members coming on, it appears as if the best time for everyone to meet on our regularly scheduled meetings is going to be the 3rd Tuesday, which is today, at roughly this time, 5:30, and or slightly earlier. Is there any issues with that being our regularly scheduled board meeting timeframe that anyone knows of, or any conflicts that you may have?
No,
how about board members?
That works for me.
Okay. Well, as a 5:30 timeframe, can that be moved up at all, or is it 5:30 feel more than, is that a comfortable timeframe? I'm good either way, moving it up or keeping it the same. Just that Mike, the opinion is that, when we have projects in front of us on our regularly scheduled board days, is that's a little bit, it's slightly after the close of business. Now, that's not to say that projects cannot do that, but it's something that we want to consider time-wise.
Yeah, later works better for me, but I can certainly move that time frame up on the third Tuesday of every month and work my schedule around it. So if that's that helps the crew, I'll certainly look to move that earlier, Mike, if it's in best interest of the IDA. No problem.
Any other board members? Any issues with this time frame?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Paul. How about council? Obviously, we rely heavily on council. Kevin, is that a time frame that's not in conflict with anything that you otherwise have?
I normally have a village board meeting in Montgomery at 7:30 on the 3rd Tuesday, so I can start at 5:30, but I may have to cop out, 10 minutes before 7:30.
Okay. Yeah, we might move it up a little bit because a couple times a year, my Village of Goshen Planning Board meeting will be on the 3rd. Sometimes it's the 3rd, sometimes it's the 4th.
Right.
It's a whole convoluted follow the 3rd Thursday of the 2nd Wednesday. It's crazy. How about county council? Any issues with timeframes of being the 3rd Tuesday? I don't think it conflicts with any of the current legislative council or legislative issue meetings or any. I don't know if your guys' availability during that time frame.
We'll work it out. We'll make ourselves available.
Okay. So I'd like to be able to move it up to 5. Anybody have an issue with 5 o'clock?
5 works, Mike.
5 is good for me. Yeah, 5 is good.
Great. And it doesn't, obviously we'll revisit this because I know that some of our members and board members are professors And obviously, as your schedules come out, we can amend and change as appropriate. But at this point in time, Bill, can we put that on our scheduler, on our calendar, third Tuesday of every month for the foreseeable future at 5 p.m. And Absolutely. If you could arrange to have staff that needs to be available, as well as audio/visual/technology signed up for that period of time as well. And we'll try to make that a standing thing so that we know that we have that as a standing meeting moving forward monthly. I think that'll make it easier on us instead of constantly calling a special meeting every time we have something else come up. Mm-hmm. Obviously, during this interim phase, we're probably going to need to have a couple more of these special meetings, but I think it's a good compromise having it on a Tuesday at 5. I think that works for everybody. So,
Mr. Chairman, now that we settled that, I know we weren't going to get into the board retreat too much, but I'm ready to kind of poll the members again to see who's available when. But I wanted to know: are we aiming for a weekend? Just want to make sure we're all clear on that. So
Well, that's a good question, Bill. And yes, I'd like for you to start polling people on that. I'd like to have it done within the next, I'd like to say 6 weeks, but I'd like to get Paul's opinion because, as everyone may have known, we made a presentation to the E&E committee at the legislature, Orange County Legislature, yesterday. And Paul is working on, with the other county legislatures, getting people on board. I'd hate to have it not knowing if those two people are going to be on board. So maybe I don't want to wait, but I would like to get Paul's opinion if he thinks he'll be able to get them on board within the next month or 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, we, as far as that process goes, we'd be voting on it at our next committee meeting, which would be a month from yesterday. And then we would be voting on that to make it official on June 3rd, which would be the first Thursday. So they would be officially on the board by June 3rd.
Okay. So, Bill, if you can look at schedules for after June 3rd, just to give the opportunity for the 2 new board members potentially to be able to attend. I hate to do this and have to do it all over again. I'd obviously avoid the last weekend in June for 4th of July week. Now, I'm okay with, I don't mind working after work and at night, but there is an option to potentially do this on a weekend day. Now, it's going to be crazy because schedules and everything, and everyone has different stuff. I'm okay either way, but Paul, I know, you have distinct job responsibilities that you can't change in regards to some of that stuff. But I'd like, Bill, to you to poll the board, not today, through an email, come up with, days after the 3rd. If you want to send like a partial calendar from the 3rd, say to the 25th or whatever that last Friday is before people may get away for 4th of July week. Obviously school's out by then and people may be going on vacation. So we want to try to avoid that if all possible. So if we can poll that and maybe through emails, we can come up with a date. I think if we have 2 or 3, I'll say people come in to speak with us and we do some stuff, and we're probably looking at, I hate to say this, it's probably like a 3-hour time frame. I don't want to say it's going to be an hour because I know it's not that, and it's not a full day, but I'd like to be able to say that we can, get out some best practices and come together with some ideas that we want to move forward with, all the while being very transparent about it all. And then obviously running it by councils to make sure that it's on the up and up and that we're not doing something that we're not supposed to. What do you guys think?
Mike, is this going to be an in-person or a Zoom retreat?
I'd like to do it in person.
Okay.
I think by then, hey, listen, I'm going into work. People are at work. Obviously, if we can find a location that's neutral, easy for everyone to get to, we can socially distance, those type of things. But I would hope by then we have some some easing of restrictions. We met in special section and there was no repercussions and or issues from that in the past. So I think we should do this in person. I think it'd be best. It'd be easiest. We'd have to, obviously we would be recording it, but we wouldn't have to worry about all the technology And I think it would go quicker because we would see when people want to speak. You know, you'd be able to see their facial expressions or a hand being raised and those type of things. So I think it would be in person.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think by then the weather would be nicer. We can definitely find some place where we could do that.
Exactly. Any other board members' opinions on that?
Yes, I do have. Yeah, Vincent. Yeah. Now, is current board members allowed to recommend a potential board member? And if so, if yes, what's the process?
I'll ask Paul to answer that because we're all appointed through the Orange County legislative process. And Paul, a member of that and the committee chairman of the E&E committee, it starts at that process. So Paul, if you'd like to answer that, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say if you know of anyone who may be interested, then you can forward me their name and possibly a resume, and then I can put them on the list, and we can go from there. So, I know there have been a few names mentioned already, so I'm sure that list is going to grow. So we're going to be limited to 2. But yeah, if you have someone interested, send me their name.
Okay, thank you.
Opinions of other board members in regards to our retreat/reorganization meeting?
In person sounds good to me, and I'm sure we'll find a good date for us. Yep, looks great. Looking forward.
Great. Obviously, we're going to try to avoid a work day, middle of the day type concept. So it'll be either after work or, unfortunately, on a weekend, which I'm not great in favor of. Obviously, we all want to have our off time, but 3 hours is not a lot to ask, and I think it will go a long way. So if you could just send that out this week, if at all possible, and then we can opine back. And, obviously we want to bounce that off of all of our schedules, and then we'll let council, and then we'll potentially next meeting, we'll come up with maybe some speakers that I'm thinking of. We'll see if, obviously we're going to try to get people to come in at no cost, where, we want to be cost conscious, and give us, their best practices, opinions, those type of things. I'm thinking about someone possibly who has worked in or run an IDA in the past. I'm also thinking about people who have distinct project or economic development knowledge. So we'll start putting together a list, Bill, and we'll see if any of these people are out there that be willing to come in front of us.
Absolutely.
Great. With that, we still have to go to the OCFC stuff, which we haven't gone to yet. But I think we need to, I'm just getting my computer to kick back on. Times of the essence. The future meetings, we do have an item here for executive session. I think we should entertain an option or a motion to go into executive session to speak about personnel and legal matters. I think those are 2 things that are allowable in relation to that. And I say legal matters in specific to the DA's subpoena request. I'd like to make this motion myself, and I'd like to get a second if at all possible.
I'll second, Mike.
Okay. So logistically now, Bill, we need to see who's going to be invited. Obviously, we would like all board members to be part of that. And county council, we'd like to have a part of that. And county council, do you need Kevin to be part of that?
I don't. My only question for you, Chairman, is do you want to do the stuff first and then just go into executive session after, or totally your call, obviously?
I think it would be easier if we did it that way. Is that allowed where we can go keep this meeting open the other meeting, do it, close the other meeting, and then come back to this?
I think, Chairman, you can simply recess this meeting until the conclusion of the OCFC meeting and then do it all at once.
Yeah, I think probably that's
that's exactly what you would adjourn the IDA meeting,
or recess it.
Or recess it, right? Like Langdon said, go into the funding corp, have the audit presented, and then go back into the IDA meeting and go into executive session.
Yeah, I think that'll be best for all involved. I think it would make it a quicker process. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion to recess the Orange County IDA meeting until such a time that the OCFC meeting is concluded. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Bill, can you call the roll on that, please?
Is that second by Leslie?
Yes.
Okay. Mike Torelli?
Yes.
John Dowdett?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Riskevich?
Yes.
5 yeas.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to reopen the IDA portion of the meeting. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make the motion, Mike.
All right, I'll second that. Bill, call the roll. So reopen the IDA meeting?
Mike Torelli?
Yes.
John Dowdett?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Riskevich?
Yes.
5
Great.
yeas.
All right. At this point in time, our last agenda item before adjournment is executive session. I'd like to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to talk about employment and response to the DA subpoena request, with board members being present, Bill being present, and Orange County Council being present.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Leslie. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mike.
Great. Bill, call the roll to enter into executive session, please.
Mike Torelli?
Yes.
John Dowdett?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Riskevich?
Yes.
5 yeas.
Great. Bill, can you work?
Thanks, everybody. Mike and Bill, if you need me for anything, just shoot me a text and I can jump back on.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for the patience as we are out of executive session and now back into our public session. I don't believe there's any other business that comes in front of the board today. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Leslie. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Paul. Bill, roll call, please.
Mike Torelli?
Yes.
John Dowdett?
Yes.
Leslie Pieri?
Yes.
Vincent Odock?
Yes.
Paul Riskevich?
Yes.
Motion passes. 5 yeas.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Yes.
you.